All right, folks, it's Thursday, Southwest Mississippi. Had a good shower just passed through. Looks like some more on its way, so I'm gonna try to do this quickly. But I'm glad that you came. I'm glad that you're here, and I really think this is gonna be a good message for a lot of folks. The other day, I was talking about at church about Peter. And well, I tell you what, of all the disciples, a lot of us can relate to Peter, can't we? Sometimes we talk before we think. Sometimes we say things we wish we hadn't have said. But Peter, I do relate to Peter quite a bit. But I'm going to read to you something out of Mark 16:7. And this was after the resurrection when Mary and the ladies came to the garden, and they were going to do some more spices and stuff like that with Jesus because he had died. But the stone had been rolled away, and the angel in the tomb says, "You're seeking for Jesus of Nazareth, and he is not here. He's resurrected." Then he says something here really interesting. He says, "He's not here. See the place where they put him. But go tell his disciples and Peter." Tell his disciples and Peter. Why did he say it that way? I thought Peter was a disciple. Didn't you? Do you know why he had to say it that way? Because Peter did not feel like a disciple anymore. He blew it. He absolutely blew it. He boasted how he would never deny Christ, and how he would rather die than to deny Christ. He did it in front of his fellow disciples and said, "They might forsake you, Jesus, but not me. I'm there. You can count on me." And don't you know, when Jesus looked at him and said, "Peter, not only are you going to deny me once, but you're going to deny me 3 times tonight." Or actually in the morning. Peter said, "There's no way." You remember the story, don't you? Peter's sitting there with his hands on the fire, trying to warm himself up, and some little girl said, "Aren't you one of his disciples? Aren't you the guy that hung around Jesus a lot?" And he said, "I never knew the man. Who are you talking about?" Then he was approached again. "I know I've seen you with Jesus. I think you're one of those disciples." "Yeah, I know for a fact." "I never knew him. Go away." And you remember the third time. "Yeah, you're the Galilean. I can tell by your accent. You're from Galilee, and that's where you started with him." And it says he cursed, and it wasn't cursing like folks curse today, but the point is, he denied Christ 3 times. And when he did, listen to me, friend, it said he wept bitterly. I don't know if you've ever wept bitterly. Unfortunately, I know I have. It's just uncontrollable weeping. You can't stop. The harder you try to stop, the worse it gets. Peter wept bitterly because he had forsaken Jesus. He had forsaken the one he walked with for 3 years, the one he left his occupation, his family for 3 years. And he denied him in one night 3 times. Wow. Now, when we say deny, I would never deny Jesus. Oh, we always think of somebody maybe putting a gun to your head or doing some physical harm to you. And you'd say, I'd never deny Jesus. But did you notice this with Peter? None of that was even involved. They just accused him of being with Jesus. Oh, there may have been some ramifications, but 3 times he denied Jesus. I wonder how many times in your life. I can tell you in my life, there are times I've denied Christ too. Oh, you think you've never denied him? Yeah, sometimes we deny him, and it's just our silence that denies him. It's not somebody asks you point blank, hey, are you a Christian? And you, oh, I don't know if I want to say anything or not. That's easy. That's easy. It's when they're telling the off-colored joke, or when they're talking about moral and ethical issues, and you know the Bible speaks clearly on those issues, and you keep your mouth shut. Has that ever happened to you? Or maybe you just turn and walk away. See, that's denying Christ too. See, we are called to speak up for Jesus. When I taught school, I remember the kids, I'd be standing in the hallway and something would happen and they would throw their books down, or the door would slam on their locker and they would say, Jesus Christ! That's denying Jesus. And I'd have to correct them. I'd say, wait, stop right now. Find another name to use as a cuss word. But you need to stop using Jesus' name as a cuss word. There's people all around us do that, don't they? Drop their books in the mud. Jesus Christ. Why do they use that name? Why don't they use Buddha, Bahala, Krishna, Muhammad? Why don't they use those names? Friend, the reason they use Jesus' name is because it's the only name under heaven by which man must be saved. Whoa! Now you're seeing what I'm talking about. There's no other name under heaven other than Jesus Christ. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess in heaven, on earth, and under the earth that he is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. See, that name is important, isn't it? So my challenge to you this week is, if somebody was to use Jesus' name in vain, don't use the Lord's name in vain. The Lord's name is Jesus. When somebody uses that name in vain, or as a cuss word, or as a period to a sentence, you don't have to be mean about it, but just ask them, hey, why do you use that name? Why don't you use somebody else's name? And then you'll have an opportunity to tell them how special that name is to you and why. See, we don't have to be like Peter and deny Christ. Sometimes we do it in our actions, don't we? The most beautiful part of this picture, or this story, is this. Jesus said, meet me in Galilee. Tell my disciples and Peter. And if you remember the story, Jesus is standing on the sea, on the beach. The guys are out there fishing. They've caught nothing all night. Jesus then tells them to put their nets on the other side of the boat. And when they do, they catch more fish. Actually, it tells you, I think it's like 153. Don't hold me on that. But they can't get the net in the boat. But Peter recognizes the person on the beach is Jesus. And Peter doesn't wait to row the boat into the beach. He jumps in and swims ashore. And you know the story. Man, it's a great story. It's a great story of restoration, isn't it? Jesus asks Peter 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me, Peter? Peter says, you know it all. You know I love you. No, Peter, do you love me? He asked him 3 times. Why 3 times? Because Peter denied him 3 times. Jesus restored Peter, and Peter was never the same. He said, feed my sheep, and that's what Peter did. I'm telling you, friend, you may think that you have blown it with God. You may think that you have done, that by your denying Christ, or you're denying God, or you've done something so terrible that God can never use you again. The good news is, he can and he will. He can and he will. There's nothing that you could have done for God to unlove you. Just talk to him. Just talk to him. It's been a great Thursday. I hope this week maybe you are restored in your relationship with God the Father. Just talk to him. It's been a great Thursday. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Take care.